Okay, and we're back. So we are going to be moving into the second series of the ONOG Qualifier. I'm joined by Chalky, of course, my casting compatriot here. How are you doing, Chalky?
I'm doing great. Pretty good game for the first game. And up next, we're gonna have Pavel versus RDU. These players competing to get a spot into the finals, where they look to qualify for the future tournament, maybe make a little bit of money. But for you viewers out there that are interested in winning a little bit for yourselves, you can visit geico.onog.gg and enter a raffle for an official TSM PC. You get a quote from Geico and enter the sweepstakes. So go ahead and check that out if you guys like this tournament. Big shout out to Geico for sponsoring this.
Yeah. So we'll be moving into the second series of the qualifier here between Pavel and RDU. So RDU is a much more memorable player. He showed up at a lot of big events. Pavel is someone who is decently well known, but probably still trying to break out a little more. I think he would love this win against RDU to put on a resume.
Yeah, Pavel, I've heard a lot of European players talk up. He's gotten number one legend constantly, even with classes like Priest. He's known as a pretty control-heavy player, but he's definitely kind of branching out of that comfort zone with the Warlock and Hunter deck in this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised to see Patron Warrior from him. Definitely a player that would pick a strong deck over a comfort deck. I know he really loves Control Warrior, but might just respect the power of Patron. But as far as RDU, yeah, very well-known player. Been around in a lot of stuff. Paladin is in his lineup. I know that that's an aggro Paladin.
Oh yeah?
Watched a lot of RDU playing that. And the Warrior, of course, I know will be a Patron Warrior for him. Druid deck, probably just, standardish Druid. So definitely, last match had a lot of mirror match, a lot of similarities. But this match is going to be quite a bit different.
I was like seeing the aggro paladin deck. It seems to be gaining a lot more favor lately with the popularity of warriors, just because some of the divine shield mechanics in paladin can punish warriors really hard. So with that being one of the top picks, I actually think that aggro paladin's a very strong choice.
Yeah, it definitely has a strong matchup against Hunter decks as well, and basically just punishes anything that's generally weak to aggro, and not really something a lot of people have been preparing for, as it's kind of a newcomer into the meta. But we're going to start out with Pavel on Hunter and RDU on Druid.
Double Innervate Dr. Boom in the opening hand.
Is that a good one?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to see if he keeps that or not.
I'd like to see him keep it. Throw out the boom.
So Hunter, it looks like mid-range, although it's always hard to say with the Hunter deck. Yeah, he has the Houndmaster, so I think it's more of a mid-range Hunter.
Yeah.
Pavel's lineup reminds me of just something that you pick to kind of include all of the top decks right now, all of the like classically very strong decks he's chosen from.
Yep. So, are you obviously just going to start off by passing, but on turn 2 we could even potentially see this Doctor Boom come out. He did keep it, so this is probably what he's planning to do. And there's not really a great answer for Pavel coming out on turn 3 to deal with the Doctor Boom.
It also curves incredibly well with his hand to play turn 2 Dr. Boom, turn 3 Shade, turn 4 Keeper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty insane start for the Druid. Really, this is all you could ask for against a Hunter. The Keeper of the Grove, even, like a lot of the normal dream openers involve like keepering a juggler, but when you iterate out a Doctor Boom, it's almost like you become the aggro deck, and suddenly the Hunter is like, oh, geez, like I need to trade into a 7/7, and the Boombots challenge almost everything in the Hunter deck. So it's It's not that great here for Pavel. Might end up just being a blowout with the double innervate start.
And I mean, Pavel's hand doesn't really agree with this situation either. So he's going to trade both creatures. Oh man, that just feels absolutely terrible. I guess you're hoping for like a Shredder draw next turn, or maybe a Haunted Creeper.
Yeah. Well, he definitely wanted to see a hero power from RDU, that's for sure, but that didn't happen. Mad Scientist isn't too bad, but you'd probably feel really bad about just Houndmastering on the blank here. Mad Scientist, maybe if he has like something like Freezing Trap in his deck, would at least let him maybe regain control of the board. But he's just going to Houndmaster, so...
I guess if you play Mad Scientist, you run the risk of attack with a bomb plus hero power, and then the other bomb would take the Freezing Trap.
That so bomb was not playing.
Yeah.
And Arty is just going to turn up the aggression. And like I mentioned, I mean, basically the aggro deck is no longer the Hunter here. The Druid's just going to look to kind of push him down.
There's some potential still. I mean, RDU doesn't have a strong turn next turn, so maybe a high main draw could switch the game around here. High main into Dr. Boom. Oh, and he does. He gets the high main, so...
The high main definitely exactly what he wanted, yeah.
A very faint hope.
Bomb for 4, though. Rough.
Yeah, whenever a hunter is at half of the health of the druid, then you're looking in a pretty rough position.
Yeah. And, I mean, if RDU draws a single damage card, like Savage Roar, Force of Nature, the game ends from this point on. Even a swipe might do it. So, I expect Pavel's going to decide he needs to Dr. Boom this turn.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think if he could clear out both minions and freezing the Shredder, he might consider Unleash, but at this point, you just have to hope and Dr. Boom.
Yeah, he was 1 damage off there from being able to clear the Ooze and the Keeper, and then the Freezing Trap would protect him.
Yeah.
But
and swipe off the top will do it. RDU is just going to aggro down the Hunter deck, only taking 2 points of damage that entire game.
And that's a really great start for RDU too, especially because the Druid deck is probably one of the more possible to lose with just a bad opening draw or some kind of inconsistencies in the deck in certain matchups. So taking a win with that, now his lineup is Aggro Paladin and Patron Warrior, which both seem very primed to take games from what Pavel's bringing.
Yeah, the Aggro Paladin definitely favored against that Hunter deck. Not too bad of matchups against the Warrior and Warlock. Oh, especially since it's a Handlock. We're actually going to see that matchup right now. Aggro Paladin versus what looks to be just a Handlock deck. Could still be, you know, maybe Malagos Lock, but the Sun Fury pretty much tips off the Handlock.
RDU keeping his entire hand in the opening, so another opening that he's quite happy with.
Oh, man. Might be the story of this match. But
that's a pretty good hand for Pavel as well.
Yeah, the Molten Giant, definitely something he's going to need this match, facing down just relentless aggression from the Paladin. And he kept Hellfire, so obviously decides he's going to need some AoE to get out of the woods in the early turns this game.
So in this match, I mean, I think the big decider in this match is going to be the Divine Favor, just because the Warlock is holding so many cards as the Hand Warlock, you really can't play around Divine Favor. You need to have those options available to you.
Yeah, you're basically just saying, hope he never draws Divine Favor, and hope you can get like some crazy stabilization turn as the Warlock. There is actually potential that depending on how much RDU attacks, he can go Hellfire and a 0-cost Molten Giant next turn. That's kind of a good-bad thing because, you know, you'd obviously be at 10 or lower health and not able to taunt that Giant immediately. And with something like a True Silver from RDU's hand, he can very easily just overwhelm Pavel, but see how much RDU is actually willing to attack, though.
I like the play of not using the muster here. Muster
Yeah.
would put him way into Molten's, plus you know that you're vulnerable to Hellfire.
Yeah, the one thing, though, is that this puts him exactly on a zero-cost Molten after a Hellfire. He'll take 3 from the Hellfire and 2 from the Leper, putting him exactly at 10. So at least Arty is going to read that, I think, and he's just going to go for this attack. I'd really like to see him do that.
Yeah, me too. Because the 3-mana Molten, if there was no Hellfire, 3-mana Molten doesn't.
Yeah, 3 mana is
anything.
not a break point at 4 mana. You can't taunt it up with Sun Fury, so looks like he's not going to attack. And really, that's just end up going to be 2 missed damage. Didn't really play around anything, unfortunately, for RDU.
Yeah. So, I mean, for Pavel, this is actually one of the better setups you could ask for. It's the Hand Warlock. The Paladin has not gotten super low on cards yet, so you might not even care if you Divine Favors at this point. You have taunts in your hands. 5 HP is not amazing, but
yeah, but he will be looking to stabilize. I mean, the one card that he's basically dead to is going to be Owl, and to a lesser degree, Equality. I wouldn't be surprised, to just see Belcher this turn. So, Owl plus something would kill him. Off the top, Arty gets Consecration, which basically makes Equality an insane draw as well, and just pushes a little bit extra damage. But Arty is just going to keep up the aggression, make a big board, throw out some juggles. Actually, going face with these juggles would be insane for him. Oh, man. Uh-oh. Okay, he got 1. So, not the worst. I think he would have liked 1 into that Sludge Belcher as well.
So, and this is a pretty important turn. You have quite a few options here. You could Shadow Flame the Protector, play the Protector on the Molten Giant, and then Shadow Flame it.
Yeah.
You could play Twilight Drake and taunt the Molten Giant and the Twilight Drake.
Yeah, as the Warlock here, another main consideration you need to make is there any way to set up like a 2-turn lethal? You see, he immediately went face with that Giant, didn't even really consider anything, and now he's actually thinking. So he's like, okay, well, I'm definitely doing this, but I don't know if there's really a great way to set up a way to kill RDU next turn. He would definitely have to go face with the Belcher, but then he'd be... Yeah, I was going for the Shadow Flame play, but he's still off lethal next turn by 5. And since he doesn't quite have the mana for Defender Vargas Hellfire, so he's really... Oh, wow. A Divine Favor off the top. Gotta draw at least 4 cards. Arty is gonna go for 5 with the deckhand first.
And that is a really big draw there.
Yeah, Arty is not quite out yet, though. Things could still go badly, but with the Blessing of Might draw, he's going to be able to clear out the Giant, which puts him into safe range. So now it's back to Pavel being worried about dying, and Arty basically has no cares in the world.
Do you siphon the 1/1?
Do you siphon the 1/1? Oh man, brutal. I mean,
4 HP, just you feel not comfortable.
you do not feel good about 4 health.
You could do BGH Argus, but there's no other way to get any taunts up. Maybe Lotheb. That just you died out like Arcane Golem.
Yeah.
If you siphon, though, you're not adding any power to the board. It's taking your whole turn. So you know RDU just drew a bunch of cards. You have to worry, like, okay, does he have static creatures? He's just going to refill the board, and I'll be in a worse position next turn.
Yeah. But can I go with the Siphon? I do think I like this. He's basically, the new game plan is, rather than trying to kill RDU fast, he needs to live 1 more turn, and then he can Jiraxis. So, and I think RDU is actually going to struggle to kill him in these next 2 turns. It obviously starts with Consecrate. This lets him push a little bit of extra damage, get past that taunt efficiently. But RDU's hand is actually pretty situational. Acidic Swamp Ooze, a tech choice he made, and I think the play I'd like here would actually be like Lotheb Sun Fury.
You like Lotheb better?
Yeah, you're dead to equality this way. Equality and the True Silver.
Yeah,
Or
that's
just,
true.
or just 2 damage. Could be like abusive. I think with Lotheb Sun Fury, there's actually very few ways that RDU gets through that. The spells are really something that RDU has to get through taunts. I guess Owl is another thing that could have won him the game, but RDU really didn't draw into any of his taunt busting cards.
Yeah, I actually like your play better because the owl would mean that you die anyways. You
Anyway,
die
yeah.
no matter what, but the Lotheb actually does protect against certain possibilities.
Yeah, so pretty crazy. Looks like RDU is actually going to lose this one.
Well, he's not dead, but then yeah, the Warlock will Jiraxis.
At worst, the Jiraxis comes out and sort of stabilizes Pavel. At best, for Pavel, he would just kill him next turn if he draws like a Dark Bomb, maybe. But yeah, pretty crazy stabilization this game from Pavel. Drew a lot of taunters, and I really think that turn that RDU missed the 2 damage, and also not just missed the 2 damage, but put him in exact range to play the Molten along with the Hellfire was pretty critical.
Yeah, missing any damage is big. Like, he has 4 health left, but he might have made different decisions if his health was a little lower.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not completely over. Like, there would be second Divine Favor draw to maybe get back in, or you can clear the taunt at least.
He does have Acidic Swamp Ooze. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
There's some merit if your opponent doesn't know you play Ooze in your Paladin. It's not a common choice. Your opponent has Hunter and Warrior as his other 2 decks. If you want to catch him off guard, you actually don't feel too good about playing the Ooze here, because in Conquest, when you lose, you have to play the deck again, and giving away information right before you lose anyway, not the greatest thing.
This is a really awkward position. He can't play all of his cards. He does not really want to take the face damage, especially with... So I guess he'll play the True Silver and trade 1 into Argus and Blessing the other.
Yep.
But if you want to Blessing, then you can't trade your guys in, so you have to take the face damage. And you're looking at maybe dying to some spell combo.
Yeah, he would be dead to a Dark Bomb off the top. Well, with the Ooze, he's actually not. So I think I see this Ooze play, as RDU saying, I think there's actually a chance I still win. It's not worth it to try and like hide my deck, but RDU I don't think has any chance of winning. Lotheb Hero Power Sun Fury this turn is going to lock him out for sure.
Yeah.
Denies the Divine Favor, denies the Kings. Just no way RDU can really come back in this one.
And the draw is Consecrate.
Yeah, could have won him the game earlier, but cards didn't really come in the right order for RDU. Picked up a lot of his board control cards when he was really just looking for Silence, Equality, and Burn spells.
I didn't see any charges from RDU's deck. Normally I expect charges in the Aggro Paladin, but he had the South Sea deckhand, and maybe he just didn't pick up any others.
Well, I think the pretty common list for the Aggro Paladin mostly just focuses on board control and only has South Sea as the chargers. Weapon damage basically equivalent to charging, but you know, putting in Wolf Rider and Arcane Golem into your deck really does make it a lot weaker. As far as controlling the board goes, you can get pretty clunky hands. RDU is alive still.
Yeah, he manages to live that turn.
I mean, I figure, yeah, he's just going to taunt up again. This is the 4th time that he's taunted, and RDU is not going to be happy about that. So, surely this is game over.
Honestly, that's not that bad of a loss. Like, you would want to take that game with the Aggro Paladin, because I'd say the Aggro Paladin probably has a bit of a favor in that match. But you know that your patron warrior would likely also have a really tough time beating the hand warlock, so you might be like, all right, that's the one that's going to get by me, but I'm going to crush the hunter and the warrior.
Yeah, it would have been nice to go up 2-0, but obviously, like you said, the patron doesn't line up greatly against Handlock, so almost an expected win for Pavel. So RDU still has to get a win with that aggro Paladin. I think it lines up really well against the mid-range hunter, but we'll have to see how it does against the warrior deck from Pavel. And RDU, of course, has his own patron deck.
It was interesting to see him bring Hand Warlock along with the Hunter and Warrior. To me, those are pretty different decks to have. Like, Warrior, you're just putting in everything, right? Because Warrior's strong. But the Hunter and Warlock have almost completely different strategies, where one is around board control and big creatures, and then the Hunter is, like, on curve, attacking the opponent really quickly.
Yeah, there's almost two different types of main strategies in Conquest, where some players will try to single out a certain style of deck by, playing three decks that all have similar strategies, they all counter similar things, and you try to win 2 or 3 games against that style of deck. And then the other strategy is just, I'm going to play the best decks, I'm going to play these 3 classes, they're all really good. And I think that's more of what Pavel's gone for with his lineup. He's playing 3 decks, 3 classes that are extremely strong, all have very different game plans, and different good matchups and bad matchups, but at the end of the day, they all have really high win rates.
So let's look at these hands here. Both players managed to find a patron. Neither player managed to get a Death Spite, though. Nobody has Inner Rage yet either, so they would love to do some early patron shenanigans, but it looks like nobody will be too successful at it yet.
Yeah. Pavel actually drew both Dread Corsairs, so he's taking a bit of an aggressive line here, and with Coin Emperor, especially with the combo and Battle Rage, if he can pick up like a Whirlwind or a Despite, then I'd say he's in a really good position to win this game. Both players have the combo, though, and this might come down to essentially who can get off first, and Despite, wow.
So,
Jeez.
do you just override and Despite face, and then...
I think he won't attack with Despite this turn. Yeah, he's just going to equip it, but the only thing this really gets blown out by is Harrison Jones, which I think RDU plays, so if he could draw that off the top, that'd be nuts. No.
Yeah, you always have such a fear as the warrior, right? When you put on that 2 durability weapon.
You're like, I'll just put this here for later. Please don't Harrison me. But, I mean, as RDU here, realistically, you don't have a proactive play, really. These pirates, like, you really need a weapon to get rid of them, and RDU doesn't have a weapon. He just has a lot of combo cards. So, not much to do. Like, you can throw out a patron and lose. You can, like, execute these 3/3s. That sounds terrible. So, just an overall terrible position for him. And when you get Coin Emperor next turn, like, that, it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
So I really like Pavel's position here.
As RDU, you look at this patron and you think, okay, this is a nice patron combo, but then even if he plays it next turn, at least 3 of the patrons die to just weapon attacks and trade, and suddenly you're left with no patrons. So.
Yep. And wow, a Whirlwind is actually insane with this cost reduction. At worst, Pavel's going to get to draw like 6 cards off this 1 mana Battle Rage.
He has to wait a turn if he wants to Battle Rage, though. He'll be on 6 mana, so...
Yeah, he'll have exactly enough mana, yeah. Well, I mean, he could just win next turn. This is a lot of damage with the double Whirlwind effects.
So, let's see, he's got 11 on board. He could add 3 more patrons for 9. So he could do up to 24.
He's got 24, yep. Nuts. But there will be an execute, so this reduces the damage to... what, like 22 only, because he actually gets another patron now. So that should just be game. And Pavel obviously instantly spots it. Clearly played a lot of Patron. He's like, you're dead.
Yeah.
Good game.
That's got to be disappointing as RDU because you had the combo pieces, you had the patron, you just didn't get a weapon all game. And
He's actually counting now. He's like, hold on, let's make sure.
I guess he knew he was going to do that anyway.
Yeah, because if you didn't have lethal here and you buffed your opponent's frothing to, like, you know, infinite damage, and then somehow you lost, you'd feel like an idiot. But this is going to be lethal. 12 damage from these patrons going to come out, and Pavel's actually going to take the lead 2-1. Just needs to get a win with that Hunter deck in, which actually has been the only deck he's lost with so far.
It's actually kind of interesting that RDU picked the Warrior this game. I mean, there was quite a bit of picking style going into this match where both players are 1-1. And then he had the Aggro Paladin, which seemed like it was designed to beat both of the classes from Pavel. But I guess he was just more confident in his Warrior.
I mean, if one of your decks is going to beat your opponent's decks, it'll beat it. You know, you'll get the chance to play it eventually. So I know that RDU probably just gonna like random pick his decks. Really doesn't matter the order in Conquest. So he will go with the Paladin now, though. This is potentially just a little bit of a, you know, clear his mind, take the series to 2-2, play your favorable matchup first. But this is actually a really good hand from Pavel. Double Mad Scientist, really what you want when you're fighting for board.
Oh, but he draws the freezing.
Oh, man. Okay, what are the odds he draws the second freezing next turn? 100%?
Well, he's had some good setups, but
yeah, the Ardent Squire is really good against Hunter. Basically sets him up to challenge the 2-1s from the Hunter side. So the Abusive Sergeant basically gets in 2 damage and nothing else. Arty actually chose to save the coin this game as well.
I'm not even sure if Pavel saw the other Unleash draw before he decided to unleash.
Yeah, he was just like,
on that.
Let's go. This is happening. Yeah, I like saving the Mad Scientist in favor of keeping the 1-1 around. This matchup's basically all about fighting for board control early, and if you can control the board as the Hunter, your hero power has a definite advantage going to the late game. It's 2 charge damage that goes through everything versus just making 1-1s, which isn't actually that great. So I actually say the Hunter is ahead here.
Yeah.
Basically, RDU somehow has to retake the board against a freezing trap and a 2-2. And with, you know, Argus and Divine Favor, really not great cards to do that.
As RDU, you might feel pretty troubled in this position knowing you're against a mid-range Hunter, but in fact Pavel's hand is not very agreeable.
Ooh, there's actually a third trap. I would assume it's probably an explosive or a snake. Those are the 2 most common, so it is going to be a snake. Makes sense, given that we've seen Houndmaster come out for him. But, yeah. The hand was really bad, and then he top decked Huffer.
Yeah, and this is just an absolutely terrible position with its snake now, too, because he had already played Consecrate. You can see RDU is just, oh man, what do I do here?
Oh god, and the snakes are going to come out, and that is not good for RDU.
He could do, like, Abusive Sergeant, Defender of Argus.
Oh, God.
He's already way behind on HP, and, like, really you want to be going face with those True Silvers.
And I mean, with the freezing up and a Consecrate used, nothing really in hand for RDU to ever challenge this board again. So, like, how do you really come back? In fact, like, I would have maybe just liked to see him play Ooze last turn.
Yeah.
And now Pavel basically way ahead on damage. He's got a Dr. Boom coming next turn. He protects his freezing trap. Still has the board. He's had 16 life. Like, how do you lose?
Yeah. I mean, this looks pretty over in a lot of ways. The Dr. Boom, you're right, just seals it up. Divine Favor, completely useless because the Hunter has less cards than the Paladin does at this point.
Yeah, and that Defender of Argus, that we've seen twice now from Arty's deck has been dead a lot. It's just been a card that Arty hasn't found himself ahead on board, and because of that, it's just had no use ever.
Yeah, and then it's also like a pretty heavy card, so it's not even playable. Like, you need to be putting other things down on those turns.
Yeah, the Paladin deck is really overloaded on fours to begin with, and so putting in another 4-drop, we saw in past games that, like, around turn 7, he's got True Silver and Argus. Can't play them both, can't play them with Consecrate, and he does have some taunts, but he's just way too far behind in the race now.
Any damage top deck will kill him. Any Boombot.
Boombots
really
can basically go anywhere and kill him. Yeah, that he needs one more Boombot or a Juggle. It's a 50-50 Juggle, and then a 50-50 Boombot. Okay, so that's actually not what he wanted to see. That is, though. So that's going to do it. Havels is actually going to just win 3 straight against varying decks from RDU, so just really dominant performance from him.
Yeah, that was really good. I especially like the Hand Warlock game against Paladin. Like, that is one of those games that's super scary, and you're trying to play specific things, but he knew exactly what he needed to do on the mulligan, and it was just kind of gorgeous play overall.
Yeah, so we're going to have Unskiller versus Pavel going in the grand finals. The winner will go to the feature tournament. But up next, we're going to have the 3rd place match. There actually still is something on the line for these players. We're going to have RDU taking on our other player. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. It was Tyroz. Yeah. Tyroz. So RDU versus Tyroz next. They're playing for GEICO points, which can qualify them for that tournament later, and there's also a little bit of money on the line. But for now, we're just going to go to a 3-minute break, so we'll see you guys in a bit.